Hi everyone, my name is Ashley. Africa. I'm 14. I'm a freshman at Shortridge. I'm one of the marketing interns here at KI.
My name is Chinelo Africa. I'm 16 years old. I'm an employee of Ascarabus Consulting, an intern with the Kepler Institute and KI New Media, and I am a junior at Shortridge High School.
My name is Johnny Johnson, 14 years old. I'm an intern at Kepler. I work with videography and KI New Media.
I mainly just learned about how little people trust the government, like with making sure that their interests are looked after. People weren't sure that this plan was worth the cost, and they also expressed like a vast dissatisfaction with the transit system as it is now.
I was facilitator for most of the discussion, and through doing that you could really see like the passion and drive a lot of people had, because like Chin said, a lot of people didn't have trust in the government, and when they got an opportunity and outlet, they really went for it. You got to just see the different types of people and how passionate they were.
I'm not sure what the thought process was. You guys decided to play like the bus stop row, sidewalks. And that's all the way out north. It's not just like Michigan. The 28 catch it one day. There's no sidewalks out north.
Really, it's about something serious that they care about, because they have family members that take the bus system, and they want to know how this is going to work, how they're going to get there and back, and pretty much who's going to be safe and who's not.
Something that a lot of people didn't understand was that with the new transit system, what they were going to try to push for was equity. And equity is basically just like having everything equal, and it accommodates everybody in the best way possible. So trying to push the idea of no matter what, you're still gonna receive, equity and stuff like that was just really difficult.
Looking at equity issues is a natural part of what we do, which is one of the reasons this plan increases access to 51% of our low-income households. And it's one of the reasons that phase one of the Red Line was actually picked to go first, because we have a higher density of low-income families along the entire course of that Red Line phase one than we do on any other proposed line. So that is actually one of the biggest reasons it was picked first. Now you're going to hear a lot about the Red Line because we have a corridor. There's 3 miles of that corridor. People there that are feeling very strongly about that line in their neighborhood. But if you look at the entire line, we are linking a lot of people from low income to jobs, healthcare, and education along that line.
Some of our lower income households, some of our individuals living in poverty need some assistance to get to that quality job, and they don't necessarily have the reliable means of transportation to even get them to the opportunities to get the quality jobs. Public transportation is not the final solution. It won't solve all the problems of poverty, but it's a necessary first step. Not even a first step, it is a necessary step to make sure that people have that opportunity. So transit does drive jobs, as we know. This is an example of right now within our current system. If an individual working at FedEx, if they were to get on the bus at 38th and Moeller up on the northwest side, it takes currently right now with our current system 2 hours and 40 minutes for them to get there. The 2021 system will roughly cut it at about half. Our public transportation system today not only is a barrier for candidates accepting jobs, but for current employees sustaining their jobs. We also have heard from Goodwill, and Goodwill has indicated that one of the top reasons candidates cannot accept jobs at their retail centers is because they don't have public transportation to get there. The average Indianapolis household can spend about, I think it's $9,000 to $12,000 in transport or to own an automobile. A lot of families don't have that opportunity. They don't have that. They don't have the means to even own a vehicle.
So for instance, if you are adding a new bus line and you're taking away a stop that was in a community full of primarily people with disabilities, you need to make sure that these people with disabilities still have a way of getting to the stop wherever you moved it. Another thing is making sure that bus fares stay affordable, so that buses that people need to get to their jobs don't become too much for them to be able to afford, and they don't start to spiral deeper into poverty. So really what it's all about is making sure that the people who need transit the most still have access to it while not decreasing the benefit that transit has for the rest of wherever it is expanded in.
The two highest factors in quality of life are how much you spend for housing and how much you spend for transportation. Those are the two most expensive things to do to live in modern society. We have the second highest transportation cost. So we acknowledge how critical this is. There are protections in place. So as a quasi-governmental agency, we take federal funds, which means that we have to comply with federal regulations that are tied to those funds. One of those is called Title VI of the Civil Rights Act of 1963. That means at the end of the day, what that means is that our services have to be deployed in an equitable manner. So all of the planning we do, one of the steps before we take it to the public, we look at the demographic data, particularly low-income and minority neighborhoods. And this is census tract by census tract all the way across our service area. We look at the number of trips that are available to those census tracts today. We look at the number of trips that are available to those census tracts with the proposed plan, and we don't take anything out to the public that doesn't comply with that standard.
The 20-year plan kind of had an impact on pretty much everything that was going on in the city, like construction routes, employment, where your job is, where you go to school, enrollment, everything that we kind of live on, like food, shelter, water.
What really impacted me was throughout my research was like how little Indies invested in their transit system, and how beneficial it has been to cities that have invested in their transit system.
I am here today to talk to you guys about transit and equity and how that pertains to Cleveland, Ohio. So in recent months, Cleveland, Ohio has been labeled as a comeback city. And people are labeling Cleveland, Ohio this because mainly they have had a history full of decades of declines and disinvestments and just money problems overall. In recent months, they have been kind of throwing that reputation in the trash by getting rid of old vacant lots and abandoned buildings and warehouses and office buildings and turning them into trending lofts and condos that are trending in other cities like LA. Now that we see that in Cleveland, the residential aspect of the upbringing of the city is starting to be taken care of. But what about the transportation aspect? That's where Cleveland's new 20-year plan comes in place. With Cleveland, Ohio, and that's also something that they pretty much are worried about the same thing. It's not so much about the construction, it's more about them willing to be able to get into these communities and for these people to be, for the transit system to be accessible to them. Because in the past it hasn't been accessible to them. They haven't had a way to really get around the city most of the time. And these neighborhoods have kind of spread from the city. They're away from the city where the transit system kind of spreads out. Pretty much their main focus is the job sprawl. Job sprawl is where the issue where 83% of Cuyahoga County's 1.28 million residents have access to transit, but only 49% of the county's 730,000 jobs are accessible by transit.
The transit system becomes most effective when it is equitable, and that means that it gives the most support to the people that need it most. And so when that happens, you see a surge in your local economy. You see a surge in like businesses in your downtown areas. And so when a transit system is equitable, that's when it's most beneficial